it's interesting actually, some of the words that came up earlier on, and when I was preparing for this, I was very much thinking of kind of the journey kind of that I've been on myself, um, and wonder, curiosity, attention, and intention very much come to mind as I kind of been journeying, I suppose, through my life. I'm a transformative executive coach and vertical development consultant. So thank you, Paddy, for sharing, the work with Suzanne Cook-Reuter. I mean, she would be very much an influence in some of the work that I've been doing in the area of vertical development. But I suppose before I kind of get into it, I suppose I want to talk about, myself as a young child and the influences that I had as a young child, and my grandmother. And Nicole, thank you for, I was very much visualizing my grandmother on my father's side. She was so instrumental in keeping the stories alive for me as a child. Those old Irish tales, of the goddesses, and you see there, Danu, the goddess of the Tuatha De Danann, which is the people of the goddess Danu. And in our history, she very much embodies fertility and wisdom, and is very much associated with nature and growth. What I loved about the story about Danu, that my grandmother used to tell me, is that legend would say that her children stayed underground and built their world there. So it was very easy for me to visualize, the fairy folk. And of course, the fairy folk in Ireland who are very much central. And we still see on the landscape today the fairy forts. The farmers will not move or will not cultivate land where the fairy fort sits. I was only looking earlier this week where a farmer was clearing land, and on the top of the land there was a fairy fort. They did not touch it because it is sacred. Or Eru, the goddess of Ireland, right, who gave her name to Ireland, Éire, and she was a princess of, again, the Tuatha De Danann, and she's remembered really as the goddess of Irish sovereignty. It's interesting. I've been carrying a coin of Eru for many years, and I never knew what she actually meant to me, but there was something very sacred about her, and I carry that coin with me all the time. So I suppose what I got from my parents or my grandparents and my grandmother specifically was this love of storytelling, the love of our history, of our ancestors. Looking there at the Celtic calendar, very much living with the Celtic calendar and seeing the difference, the movement through the seasons. Imbolc there on the 1st of February, Bealtaine in May, Lunasa in August, and Samhain, the 1st of November. Samhain, which when we only spoke about during the week, was in relation to Halloween, where Halloween came from. So sitting around, hearing stories, the Irish language was very important. It was a language that was largely, I suppose, stolen from us, but our music has kept it alive, and music and dance is very much central to our connection to our ancestors. So I'm probably just sharing this is because it's really important to me in relation to, I suppose, the wonder that I had. Everything was possible in this world. So I suppose from a transition perspective, then I went through, secondary and third level education really was not an area that I felt comfortable with. It was too restrictive. It wasn't an area that I kind of felt that I could really, express myself at all. But what I find is when I look back over it is that there's very strong themes came through of the type of work that I have done over the 30 plus years. But it was always looking at the big picture. I was always really interested in everything that was connected with everything else. Building new capabilities, new ways of working, leading systemic change in organizations. And interestingly, I noticed that I moved organizations typically every 7 years. Now, I only noticed this in hindsight, but there was this kind of constant cycle of kind of change and a need to move on to do more, because my curiosity was always, I think, Paddy, you mentioned curiosity earlier on. I was always a very curious child, and continue to be curious about, the role of leaders. When I was in leadership roles, my role, the impact that I was having on others within the organization, and, human motivation and the pivotal role of leadership in human flourishing. So, I suppose from there returned to education, and a number of years ago, and that's when I became involved. Became very very interested in the area of adult development. So this is a model, I suppose, that kind of tells, the different areas. So here, from the cognitive perspective, you have Piaget and Keegan. And then when you look into the motives, it really was Maslow. And Maslow was the first model that I heard when I was very, very young, in relation to, the hierarchy of needs. And then as we moved on, ethics and morals, Kohlberg and Gilligan, and then the holistic self, Lovinger, Krug-Reuter, O'Whalon and Brax. So I became really interested in this idea of how we evolve as adults, and pursued, I suppose, further training. Went back to college, first of all, did some postgrads in relation to organisation development, transformation, and then professional coaching. But the whole area of transpersonal coaching became really, really, I was really interested in it. It was beyond the personal. It was something bigger, and there was this yearning in me to kind of look beyond the personal. I was that child who was always looking at the stars. I was always aware of something much, much bigger. So going down this road very much supported, I suppose, my understanding of what was within me. And I loved, Jimmy, when you said there earlier, it is impossible to outrun that which exists inside of you. And this was a way that kind of was bringing out what was inside of me, was bringing me back to kind of, that childhood, that wonder and that curiosity. So the shifts really in relation to the in vertical development is very much then looking at, moving from the me to the we to the all of us. And I know, Paddy, you spoke about that as well. So what I have found in leveraging the stage shift, so I studied with Dr. Antoinette Brax, who would have very close relationships as well with the likes of Susan Krug-Reuter, in relation to leveraging her approach to vertical development, and very much seeing that shift in the worldviews. I think we've heard that mentioned as well. The worldviews, how we see the world, how we move from the me to the we to the all of us. And this approach has very much supported me. Also here at the end, we see how the changing worldviews are happening, moving more from conventional to post-conventional, but they're actually happening at a relatively slow pace. And, what can we do from a development perspective to support, individuals and organizations to make those shifts. So this has been really, really important for helping me to understand what lies within for me, and making that shift really into the post-conventional. Now where are we going? Why is my... So this is the model that I the stage shift model, and it's very much, I suppose, looking at the whole area of intention. Initially very much looking at, what is my purpose, what are the values that I wish to lead by, and that's been really important in helping me to articulate my purpose. What am I here to do? And then very much really looking at, then how do I engage with others, the interaction with others, how do I learn through engaging with others? So moving more into the collective and integrating all those, I suppose, learnings, ongoing learnings into my very being. I use this model called the Vertical Holistic Leadership Profile, which looks at the different lines of development: action orientation, emotional awareness, mindful attention, and spiritual congruence. But it also looks at the areas of shadow, and really helping me to, helping me and helping those that I work with to understand where are the potential areas or that may be limiting, I suppose, my potential, or maybe holding me back. These are models that I've been using now for a number of years. And this leads into the whole area then of third generation transformative coaching. It's very, I suppose it's quite expansive in relation to even the dialogue, right? It's really looking at the both, co-reflection, which is a real shift away from developmental type coaching. So very much work in this area in relation to, a coach and a partnering relationship, shared humanity, psychology and shadow resolution, and so on. So we're bringing organization evolution into the conversation. And I know that I don't have very much time, so I'm flying through this. But all of this led me to be very intentional in relation to my focus and say, okay, right, where would I like, where would I like to be engaging? Where would I feel that I can really live my life's purpose? And Ireland became hugely important to me again about 5 years ago, which was very much bringing me back to my stories at the start that my grandmother would have shared with me. Um, so I was very intentional in engaging with the city of Cork, and very much looking to the city and say, how can I be of service to a city that is very much evolving and which is very much forward thinking. So I was seeing that, Cork was changing. This is the city where I live. It's a city that I love. Um, so I've actively pursued the city council and knocked on the door for a number of years, and they eventually opened the door. So I've been working with them now, and for this is my second year, and it's really just interesting to see the work that they're doing. Now they've been doing amazing work. They've been doing amazing work in engaging with the community and the very diverse communities in relation to integration of the different nationalities that are coming in and out of the city. But it's just wonderful to work with um, the leaders in there and really helping them to make that shift themselves, beyond themselves, to really help them to work more collaboratively together. Um, and they're beginning to see that by working more collaboratively. Now, from a central government perspective, as we know, um, funding comes down, to the directorate, so they typically work very siloed. Whereas this approach now is really supporting them to work more collectively and really seeing the benefits of that. So hopefully we'll see more and more benefits of that. Now, what's interesting, what I'm finding really, really interesting, is that my intention is very much around Ireland. And the organisations that I'm beginning to engage with have a very strong connection with Ireland. It's amazing when I look at it. So my lens of awareness has expanded into the community. I work very closely. I'm on the board with Autism Assistance Dogs Ireland, which is really interesting too. They're doing amazing work, but it's really seeing it's more beyond the dog. It's to do with the role of the dog and the engaging of the dogs with the children, with the community, and really enabling people, who live with autism to live in a community that embraces them. And the dog is very much central to that. So I work with all these different organisations, and it's just really interesting to me that there's a very strong Ireland focus around it. The inner development goals is another probably area that I've become really, really interested in. And it's why? Because it's around the language, adopting language that people will understand. So I'm beginning to integrate that into the programs that I'm developing, as I am introducing regenerative leadership as well. Really looking to move from supporting organizations to move from that mechanistic approach. And this is the work of Giles Hutchins and Laura Storm, really supporting that move from mechanistic to living and flexible. And you can see it there, from power over to power with, from short-termism to intergenerational. And this is the style of leadership that really I'm finding that vertical development aligned with the inner development goals is emerging. So what you're seeing here is a view of a model that is kind of evolving more and more, aligning the inner development goals here to vertical development, and really looking at the development of self in relation to other. you know, how we are being and how we are thinking influence how we relate to others, how we learn from others, how we collaborate and how we act. So this is a model that's kind of emerging. And this term here, fitafucha, is an Irish word, it's a Gaelic word, and it's referred to as interwoven and intertwined. And this is a language or an image that seems to resonate with people that I'm working with. It's understandable. So they're seeing that as they're, you know, becoming more aware of themselves as leaders, and they're learning more through collaboration with other. And it's not just other people, it's other, right? It's the expansive other. So I suppose, where is my curiosity going more and more, and I'll finish up with this one before I hand over to Nicole, is this is the work of an Irish writer and documentary, Sean McGann, an amazing man. Listen to the Land Speak, and he has written extensively in relation to our connection with the land. He sadly passed away a month ago, a very, very young man. But there, you know, he speaks about the sacred centre of Ireland, Ishnok. It is actually the navel of the country. You know, it is often referred to of that as that because of its central location and the belief that this was the point from which all life and energy radiated from. And it was manifested each year in the form of ritual fire that was lit at the summit. Interestingly enough, his ashes were spread on Ishnok on Samhain, which is a beautiful gesture. And also in relation to the rivers as goddesses, that's very much ingrained in our culture. In the mythology of the Irish rivers and the deities, weaving fascinating tapestry of stories that reflect the deep spiritual connection that we had to the natural world. But I leave it with the question that he has posed. The question now, as the feminine energy is rising once again, is whether we as Irish people and those of other cultures who connect with us are ready to take back this mantle and begin the process of awakening and reconnecting with our past, with who we are, our land, our language and culture. The bogs, the rivers, the mountains and the shorelines are more than just preservers of old myths, bones and memories. They are energy banks and time sponges. And what is held within them seeks release. And that's probably something that's very much central to I suppose, my motivation and my purpose in life. So thank you very much in Oscuelga, Gurv Mila Mila Mahagut, which is thank you a million times. So I hope that resonated with you. So I'll stop sharing there. And Nicole, I'd love to pass over to you.